All right, now we're going to do the inside tour of the van. So let me start on the driver's side. So over here, we'll open this door. Starting on the door itself, and I'm just going to back this out a little bit so we have more room to show. Standard configuration stuff here, your locks, window controls, mirror controls right there. So the mirrors are nice here. They have an option right here when the van, you have to have the ignition on, but you can fold the mirrors in and out, which is really nice if you're in a bit of a tight parking spot. So you have your mirror control here. There's two mirrors. There's a mirror here which control, big mirror, and then you have a little smaller here, right here. There's also a blind spot detector, so it's really nice there. Okay, jumping into the cockpit, talk about this emergency start here real quick. So there's two batteries in this unit. There's a battery up here in the engine, or we call that the chassis battery. And that is primarily going to power starting your unit, and just like your normal car would work. If for some reason that loses power and you need to jump it, you can also use the coach batteries, and there's 3 of those in back. And how you would use that is you would just hold this in as you're starting the van with the key, and then that'll use the coach batteries, and hopefully you'll never have to use that, but just in case, it's right there. Starting over here on the steering wheel, you have right here your lights on and off. They do go off automatically if you forget to turn them off, so that's kind of nice. So that's your turn signal there as well. Here's your cruise control. That works really nice on this van. Then over here on the right side, you have your wiper controls. Pretty standard gauges here. There's also a little button right here you can press. That'll show you on the screen your mileage and trip, how much distance you've got to empty, that kind of thing. So that's a pretty nice feature there. One really cool thing about this, you can't see it here, but this rear view mirror here is actually a camera. So even though you can't see clearly out of the rear of the windows all the time, this is a camera, and it's really handy because it shows you exactly what's going on in your rear view mirror. Right here, you've got your center stack for the stereo and the AC controls. All this stuff is pretty standard, pretty intuitive. You've got a glove box over here, some cup holders right there. You also have some storage up here on top. You can hold some things up there if you want, so plenty of room here. The seats, you have armrest right here that goes up and down. They're manually back and forth, so there's your manual back and forth. You have your seat height, front and back, your lumbar control. This little switch right here controls your seat back to go up and down. There's not a ton of leg room in these, so I usually leave it all the way back, but if you want to move it up and back, you can do that. These also swivel around, which is nice. So if you want to turn these seats 180 degrees, the way you would do that is over here on the right side, there's another lever right here that you can press up, and this whole seat just turns around 180 degrees. You need to move it up before you turn it around, but that's kind of a nice little feature there that you can use as well. So let's go inside. So going inside the van, just open the door here, slide this back, and that will lock into place. I mentioned the warning about the window. Don't use that window, and you'll be fine. You won't ever have an issue. So that should stay locked in place. You have another nice little screen here that you can use. So if you want to keep the side window open and have that nice air, you can do that as well. Just be careful as you're opening these. Again, things are pretty lightweight here. All right, coming into the coach, the first thing you're going to do is we're going to go through this control section right here, and this is a little intimidating, but it's really not that bad. Let me start with the main disconnect. That's this button right up here. So when you first come in the unit, normally I've got it in use right now, but normally it's going to be off when you first come in. So you just flip this up to use, and that's going to fire everything up. Right here next to it, you have your gray water heater. You really won't have to use that unless you're going to be in freezing temperatures. If you are going to be in freezing temperatures We normally do not allow any type of water usage in the unit, so you'll probably never use that. The next is your Wi-Fi switch. That's used if you're at a campground that has Wi-Fi. You want to use the hotspot in the van to bounce off that. We normally do not use that, but it's a feature of the van. The last one is the LP tank. So right now, again, down is off. So if you want to use the LP, which is used for the furnace and the hot water, that has to be turned on. It will not work and you'll get an error if that's the case. So when you're not using the hot water heater or the furnace, we recommend leaving that off. I'm gonna leave it on right now so I can show you how to use the hot water heater. Over here, you've got the solar power. That's always on, but this is something that even when the power to the unit is off, is always gonna be running, and it's a very nice feature because it keeps your batteries topped off, and you can see we're topped off right now or close to it because it's looks like it's done charging. So this next screen I'm going to show you actually on the bigger screen in back. There's two identical screens. This is called the Firefly system. So I'm going to walk you through how to use this during using the larger screen, which is a little easier to see. So we'll cover that in just a second, but they're essentially duplicates. This next device over here is the Truma, and the Truma controls your hot water heater and your furnace. So let's take a quick look at that. So with this, I'm just going to turn the button on, and we have a couple of different features here. The one that's blinking right now tells us that's the heat, and so if you're going to be using the heat, you would press this black button. Sorry, I got to do that one more time. You would press this, and right now it's off. And if you want to use it, you just turn that up to your desired interior temperature. Again, just leave that off when you're not using it. If you press it again and you move this button over one, you'll see the little thermometer there. That's indicating that your hot water. So you would press that button in again. You can see the hot water is off. And you can have three modes here: eco, hot, or boost. Boost would be used if you are in a hurry and you need to get hot water quickly. Hot is just normal hot cooling, and eco is using a lowered water temperature. Most of the time you're going to be just fine on the eco. I rarely have to use the boost, but when I'm not in the unit, when I'm traveling anytime, I leave this off. So only turn it on when you're going to use the hot water. This next button over here is your propane or electric. This unit runs on both. So right now you can see it's set up on gas. I have the option to use a mix of gas and electric, or just purely electric. Normally, if you're not using the hot water heater that much, you can just run it on gas. That's fine. If you want to conserve gas and just use the free electricity that you get at the campground, you can leave it on electric 1 or electric 2. If you're going to run the electrics off this, just be careful, make sure you're plugged in. But, you know, like I said, right now, that's just on gas. This is, last button here is your fan. And right now we have, you can also just use that as a vent. Normally this is just something that runs automatically. This is something that goes off eventually, so it works pretty good as well. So I'm going to go ahead here and turn the LP tank off since we're not using the hot water heater. And next what we're going to do is let me show you a little bit about the kitchen area, and then we'll cover some of the stuff on this screen on the bigger unit. So over here up top, you've got a cooktop. This you have to have the inverter on and be connected for that to work. And by the way, to back up just for a second, this is your inverter up here. You shouldn't really need to ever touch this. Just leave it on and you'll be fine. So this converts the AC power to DC and back and forth. So if you're trying to use your stove or your microwave while you're connected to battery power, everything would go through this inverter. But again, you shouldn't need to touch that. So you have a stove here. Here you have a sink. It's a standard sink on and off. This has a dedicated tank where everything drains to. You got some paper towels up here. We provide a couple of rolls of those for you. Do have some storage here for things like cutting boards, and you won't see a lot of this in here right now, but we provide pretty much everything you'll need for your trip in terms of utensils, plates, that kind of thing. Here you have another door here. Have some additional storage down here. And there you've got a colander and a little bowl down there that you can use. There's the microwave, and the fridge is nice. Not super big here, but it does do a great job of cooling. The only thing I'll tell you here is do not put food in this refrigerator immediately after you start it up, because it'll never get cold. Let this thing run for a while before you start loading it up with food. Okay? All right, so over here we have the TV. This is a standard TV. There are remotes up here in this cabinet. They're right there. This is the remote for the TV. There is an onboard antenna. Honestly, it doesn't work really good. Most of the time we are just streaming shows off of our phone, and just follow the menus on the screen. It'll tell you how to set that up. This is an onboard radio right here, which has 4 speakers that you can use. You can pair this with your phone, but you have a nice little radio there as well that you can use. So you have lots of other storage up here on these cabinets. You have your upper cabinets right here. These all open up very nice, and we provide all the linens and everything you need. Look at the windows real quick. So right now we've got the door open, so this one's blocked, but you have a just slide this up, and that's your privacy screen. Slide that down, it becomes a regular screen. So over here you can see a little easier what I'm talking about. So this would just lift up right here and down, and then if you want to open the windows, these 2 things just snap open, and that leaves things wide open. Now if you want to open the windows, you just press in this little gray button here and pop these open, and the window automatically should stay open. So now you can have that, and now if you want to put your screen down, you can have the screen with the windows open. This is really nice. To put these back in, you just lift it up, pull the window down, and then you're going to snap all these back into place, and you're good to go. And it works the same for all the windows. Just be careful when you're using these shades and screens, because again, everything in here is pretty lightweight, and it's easy to screw something up if you're not careful. All right, so let's look at the fan. This little fan module right here, it's pretty easy to use. It controls this vent fan right here. So when you want to use it, you just power it up, and you can leave it on auto, air out, okay? Turn your fan on. And the fan will open, eventually start running here. There it goes. Now this is an exhaust fan, so what it's going to do is pull air from inside the unit, and this does a tremendous job of cooling. You really don't need to use the air conditioner in these unless it's super hot outside. If you just park in the shade and you use this fan, you're going to be usually more than comfortable. So when you're done with the fan, you just come down here and turn it off. And probably can't see it real well here, but that cover will automatically open and close. So got a nice feature there. Okay, now let's come and look at the screen, the rear screen. This is the main screen, so this is what you'll see on the home screen. You'll see right here we do have a full tank of fresh water. We happen to have that full right now. Normally we don't fill it before someone's picking it up, but right now it is full. And then you have your 2 gray tanks, that's for the sinks, and then the black tank, which is the toilet. And you've got about 62% of your LP left, which is fine unless you're really going to be running the heat a lot. The button right here is where you would turn on the water pump. So my recommendation is only turn the water pump on when you're going to be using water. Down below here you have your generator start and stop. That's if you're driving and you're using the batteries all day. Maybe the batteries are getting a little bit low and you want to top the batteries off, or you're someplace where you don't have access to shore power and you want to run the air conditioner. So to start that, it's pretty simple. The first thing you're going to do is hold the stop button for a couple of seconds. Then you're going to hit the start button, hold that for a couple seconds. You'll hear the generator start and it'll start running. And now what's happening is that generator is going to power batteries, and it's going to give you more AC power. It's just like being hooked up to power, AC power, but you're running on the generator. You have a light master on and off, so I just press the on button there, turn on all the lights. This is your awning. I'd recommend, if you're going to be using the awning, be very careful, and it's best to do it when you have someone that can watch the awning opening and closing. And again, never leave that awning open when you are not immediately able to close it in case it gets windy. So a couple other buttons here. This is your home button that we're on right now. Here's how you control your electricity here. So right now this is telling us the generator is running, that it's passed through charging. Everything there is running as well. So the next button here, if you want to shut the generator off, you just hit stop here and that will stop the generator. It's best to leave the generator run for at least 5 minutes or so before you try to start the air conditioner. They can be a little tricky. Here's your lights. So you have a master on and off here, plus you can control all the other individual lights in the unit. This is your temperature screen. So normally when you're running the systems, you're going to run the furnace and hot water off of the Truma system, which I showed you earlier. This you're really only going to use for the air conditioner. So if you want to run the air conditioner, you just set your temperature here. I normally leave it no lower than about 78. I know that may seem high, but you don't want, these units are very small, and you want to make sure that if it's hot, you're cooling it effectively. So with this, I would just press the cool button, and then it's going to start the air conditioner. Sorry, you can probably hear that going right now. And after a few minutes of warm up, the compressor comes on and you're good to go. So I'm gonna turn that off. It has settings for high, medium, low, and auto. It's also got a night and a dehumidification zone. The next button right here is your configuration setting. You really don't need to use anything in here. Just don't worry about that. So if you have any questions, there's plenty of videos on the internet for how to use these systems, and then we'll walk through that with you when you rent the unit.